Well, good morning. Welcome again to Elevenses. I'm Kevin Williams of Survival Skills Rider Training. This is show number 528. It's Wednesday, the 14th of May. It's a delightful morning here in London once more. And I am an hour and 45 minutes earlier than usual. So if you are looking in at the usual time of 11, the show has been and gone, but you'll obviously be able to catch it up. The reason that I'm running early today is I have to be off to Heathrow to pick my brother up from the airport, who's coming in from the US, so it'd be great to see him. Anyway, what have we got for you in the show today? Sadly, Garda has been killed by a motorcycle at a speed checkpoint in Ireland. A plainclothes policewoman thwarted an off-road biker who tried to ram her with her bicycle. A tracker has located some stolen motorcycles in crates just before they were shipped away. The Highlands Islands police in Scotland, they've been running stealth patrols, and they have been catching drivers and bikers at twice the speed limit. A US rider sadly was killed by some low-hanging communication wires. And a little bit more on the Fish Hill photographer ban, which I talked about in the previous show. The KTM story continues to unfold. Now the Remus CEO apparently wants the loan that he made them back in at the end of last year repaid. KTM are also rumoured to be a target for a Can-Am parent buyout. That's Bombardier. Ducati's MotoE machines, they continue to evolve. Third year they've been running those. Yamaha's Tracer 7 gets a major update for 2025. And finally, in depth today, we'll have a look at an article on the Bennett's Bike Social, which actually mirrors my very own thinking that it's way past time that we should be recognising that collisions with other vehicles actually involve the motorcyclist, not just the car driver. So that's all today. If you've got any questions, any comments, I'll do my best to get back to you. It won't be live, I doubt, today, but I will try to get to you whenever I can. Right, so let's roll on straight into today's weather forecast. Which I have just managed to lose. It's here somewhere. There it is. Let me just get that up on stage for you. There we go, picture of the weather forecast. Right, glorious spring, it continues. Most of the UK will be dry, sunny and warm today, though there may be a few showers, possibly heavy with thunder, in the far southwest of England later on in the day. It'll be cooler along the east coasts as the wind continues or swung around to a north easterly direction. Any cloud in the north should clear during the morning. And tomorrow, Thursday, well, it remains largely dry and sunny, possibly be hazy at times, and certainly towards the east coast, that wind will bring in some low cloud off the North Sea, and temperatures will be noticeably cooler in the east. I think it's going to drop from around 24 today to about 17 in London. Same pattern, sun for most areas, clouds being more persistent along the east coast, cooler temperatures to the east of the UK, warmer in the west. That persists right through into the weekend. So wonderful weather to enjoy on the bike at the moment. Right, now, okay. A sad story, unfortunately, is that a member of the Garda has been killed. This was Garda Kevin Flatley. He was 49 years old. He was attached to the Garda National Road Policing Unit, and he and a colleague were conducting a speed enforcement checkpoint in North County Dublin when unfortunately he was struck by a motorcycle. The collision was serious. He was killed instantly. The rider is critically ill in hospital, although he is apparently suspected or expected to survive. He was riding an R1 and the bike actually travelled over 300 meters after the fatal collision, which suggests it was doing rather more than the 80 kilometer per hour speed limit when he was flagged down. Now, the Garda Commissioner, Drew Harris, he's called for a real reset on Ireland's approach to road safety following this death. And he also mentioned during his media briefing that another Garda member had been struck by a motorcycle on duty and had suffered a broken leg the previous day. Last year, it seems 70 Gardae were injured in road traffic collisions, and it's the second most common injury category after assaults. So the Garda now plan to review their checkpoint procedures to identify changes which may be required to safety policies. The forensic collision investigators were called in from outside the region. They're conducting an independent investigation. They've been collecting evidence, including from the speed gun. They've also got dash cam footage, and they believe that, it is believed that this CCTV footage from a petrol station near where the checkpoint was established should clearly show what happened. But as I say, sources early showed that the bike was travelling in excess of the 80 kph speed limit on that part of the road. However, it was reported that the rider did not have a history of interactions with the police out there. Meanwhile, in South Yorkshire, police officer Elizabeth Rocher, she was patrolling a rural footpath in Mexborough in plain clothes on a push bike. She was apparently gathering intelligence on nuisance off-road bikers when she encountered three motorcycles with 4 people on them. She instructed them to dismount. 2 of the bikes turned round and made off in the opposite direction, but the third rider was reported as riding straight at her to try to force her way past. Well, she picked her push bike up and managed to block the rider and knocked him off his bike. I think he got away, but she was able to seize the bike, and it is, not surprisingly, I guess, suspected of being stolen. Sergeant Andy Smith, who works alongside her on the Doncaster South Neighbourhood Policing Team, said she showed incredible bravery and determination when faced with 4 offenders on motorbikes. Okay, so another police-related story. This time is a good news one. Let me just get that up on screen. I'll show you that a little bit more detail. These are 4 motorcycles that were apparently stolen in London: a Tenere 700, an XSR 700, an MT07, and an unspecified Honda. They were recovered in these crates in Birmingham just before they were shipped to abroad. All the bikes are thought to be very low mileage models, no more than 2 years old. The intended destination has not been confirmed by the police, but it's believed the machines were taken by an organised steal-to-order criminal operation. Now, fortunately, one of the bikes had a bike track, that's the brand, tracker fitted in. That was the Tenere, and it comes with both GPS and radio frequency functions. Now, the GPS gives the sort of general location of the bike, but the radio frequency function allows them to pin it down apparently to within 1 meter, and that apparently was the key to the police being able to enter the premises. Without that, they wouldn't have had sufficient evidence to confirm the stolen machine was there. They had to have gone for a warrant, and that would have allowed the possibly time for the bikes to actually be shipped off. Bike Track claimed their recovery rate is between 92 and 94%. So I guess if you have a bike likely to be lifted, and you live in a high theft rate area, that'd be a pretty good investment. The report, which presumably comes from Bike Track, they do suggest that apparently that the Yamaha motorcycles are particularly targeted by thieves because they are easily started with defeat devices. Now, these bypass the factory immobilizer, and as I reported a year or so ago, these are remarkably cheap. I think £20 was the price I saw, and you can just go online and buy the darn things. They're easily openly on sale. So reports suggest the MT07 and the MT09 are particular targets, and they're usually stripped for parts or taken out of the country completely. So, okay, as always, at the midpoint of the show here, can I ask you to do the subscribe and like thing? If you haven't done already, the buttons are down the bottom, and all you have to do is click them, and that helps me enormously. It helps show off the team to everybody else. Right, okay, so I have Terry looked in. Be perfect timing for you, sorry, because we'll be early. And Damien is also here from New Zealand. Nice to see you too, Damien. Yeah, that's the advantage of an earlier start for my international audience. Right, and I have a junk message which I shall be deleting. There we go, that gets rid of that one. So, right, moving on rapidly with some more news. The Highlands Islands policing officers, roads policing officers, they have been setting up, as threatened in a story just a couple of weeks ago, that they would be running covert patrols to detect irresponsible and dangerous behaviour, as they call it. So on the B817 near Ballacragan, I don't know if I know that road, one car was detected travelling at 90 miles an hour, and it was followed very shortly by 3 motorcycles, which were recorded at speeds of 117, 139 and 142 miles per hour. I'm guessing it's a straight bit of road. Constable Smith said driving or riding at these speeds drastically reduces reaction time. Excessive speed is one of the 5 most prevalent causation factors in serious and fatal collisions. All these drivers now face serious penalties. I do remember riding up in the Highlands on one occasion when I was moving at a reasonable clip along a dead straight bit of road with no obvious junctions anywhere in sight, when a deer jumped over a 10-foot high estate wall and landed in the road directly in front of me. It took one look at me, fortunately, and jumped back again. So, okay, one motorcyclist who wasn't so lucky was killed in Pennsylvania. The crash happened just after 6 a.m. The rider was on a NX 500, and unfortunately he came across some what were described as low-hanging communication wires, causing the rider, Luis Fernandez from Arizona, to be thrown from the bike. He unfortunately was taken to the hospital, Bethlehem Township, but he was pronounced dead that evening. So yeah, not good when you come across wires. I don't know why they were strung across the road. No notice of that. Perhaps they just come unattached from a pole, but yeah, they're dangerous things, wires, for motorcyclists. Right, last show I mentioned that West Mercia Police had issued a community protection notice warning to 3 photographers known to have been advertising their presence at the side of Fish Hill, which is near Broadway on the way out to Evesham. The ban bans them basically, or the warning bans them from sitting at the side of the road with the intent to take photographs. Now, this CPN notice, it may have been triggered by the fact there was actually a crash last Saturday morning, May the 10th, and according to eyewitnesses, it was right where a photographer was at the side of the road to around 11:30 that morning. Police attended. The rider was taken to the Worcestershire Royal Hospital, and it said that between 2020 and last month there had been 13 injury crashes involving motorcyclists on Fish Hill. 8 resulting in serious injuries, the other 5 only slight injuries. That's quite a lot of crashes. I mean, it's quite a, there's a fairly tight bends, but nothing out of the ordinary. You shouldn't be able to get around without too much problem. But as an aside, it did occur to me, sort of after I mentioned this the other day, that the order banning those 3 photographers probably won't stop it happening. It's almost certain that somebody else will see the opportunity to step in and replace them. So the real solution is for the riders, if you're the ones buying the pictures, stop, don't do it. They'll soon hang about. If nobody's buying their photos, it won't be long before they disappear from the roadside. Right. Okay. Aaron's also poked his nose in and said, "You're early. We'll watch on catch up tomorrow. Missed the first 27 minutes." So that's 3 Kiwis today. I've obviously caught all the Brits on the hop. They're all still in bed. Right. Anyway, industry news. Well, guess where we're going back to? It's KTM. Now, two rumours are doing the rounds at the moment. Now, first one is that it seems tension is building between two board members, Stefan Pira and Stefan Zirkling. They're both on the board of both Pira and KTM. Now, Pira, you may recall, stepped down as CEO, but Zirkling is also the CEO of the parts supplier Remus, who presumably supply exhaust systems to KTM. Now, you may recall that when KTM's money woes first became public knowledge, Zirkling made a loan to the ailing company. It was sort of, it was, first of all, it was announced it was happening. Then somebody said, no, it isn't. But it seems it was, and it was for the sum of 80 million euro. And it was said that in return, Zirkling's Debpo Holding AG company, well, lovely name that isn't, would receive shares. But it seems that lawyers are now acting on behalf of Debpo and demanding immediate repayment of the cash, saying that the essential information about the company, including its financial links with Bajaj, weren't made clear at the time. Some suggest this is actually linked to a sort of boardroom coup to actually oust Pira altogether. Anyway, whatever. It's looking increasingly unlikely that the 548 million euro that the company is still due to hand over to the restructuring administrator on May the 23rd. That's the deadline for them, so literally just over a week away. It's looking increasingly unlikely they'll actually find the cash. And that probably accounts for a second rumour that's floating about Bombardier Recreational Products, the parent company of Can-Am, apparently being considering the purchase of KTM. But I'm guessing it would only be at the kind of price that might be fetched if the company folded completely and parts were split off to be sold. And if they were interested, I doubt not that they would face serious competition from the likes of Bajaj and CF Motor, who are KTM partners. Right, okay, let's have a look at an electric motorcycle. You know how much I love electric motorcycles. Well, this particular one actually goes, and they are in production as well. You can't buy one, though, because it's the MotoE Ducati. Now, despite claiming that they have absolutely no interest in building an electric road bike, Ducati are entering their third year as supplier of the machine used by all riders in the FIM MotoE World Championship. This is the latest version of the V21L. And it will be seen this weekend for the first time at the opening round of the MotoE Championships, which is at Le Mans in France. Now, the machine gets a bunch of updates. It gets a slightly longer wheelbase, which is said to improve stability under braking. I always wonder how it is that they make a bike with a wheelbase that is a bit too short and isn't stable under braking. It baffles me that. Anyway, they also have a lighter back wheel in it. They've apparently removed the cush drive. And the electronics get an upgrade. You get switchable traction control modes, which apparently can be changed on the fly to suit different corners too. But what caught my eye was that the battery, the 18 kilowatt hour battery, now has new 5 amp hour cells. Now these replace the previous 4.2 amp hour units, meaning that the total number of cells has been reduced from 1,152 to 960, and this has not affected range or power, but it has brought the battery weight down by 8.2 kilos from the original weight of 110 kilos. So that's quite a saving. About 6%, 7%, according to my back of the packet maths. And the battery does account for a significant chunk of the machine's 224.5 kilogram weight. So, it may not seem much, but fairly big steps in new battery technology. There's little incremental changes that do allow practical electric motorcycles for the road to come just that little bit closer. And to save weight, the battery itself sits in a carbon fiber tub, and this acts as the stress member connecting the aluminium frame at the front, which holds the steering assembly, and the aluminium rear swing arm, which has the wheel attached to it, obviously. The motor revs to 18,000 RPM. It produces a claimed 147.5 brake horsepower, relatively modest 103 pound-feet of torque. and this makes the bike capable of 170 miles per hour. Now, the bike also features an advanced liquid cooling system. This is important because not only does obviously the battery in the motor put out a significant amount of heat when the bike's running at high speed, but it also allows recharging to begin immediately. You don't have to wait for the battery to cool down. You can just plug it straight in, and a 20 kilowatt charging socket says the battery can be charged to 80% capacity in 45 minutes. Why would they want to give us that information? I mean, surely they're only running one race at a time on these bikes. So, will we see a road version of this? Well, let me say for one moment, I don't believe that Ducati have given up on developing a performance electric motorcycle behind the scenes. If they had, why would they spend money on developing this V21L racer? There's no benefit either to their MotoG program or their current model range. Right, okay. On with a motorcycle that is petrol engined, and this is the Yamaha Tracer 7. This one's the GT version, and they're getting some serious upgrades for the new year. Now, for starters, the cross-plane parallel twin engine, the 689cc motor. It's revised to Euro 5 Plus standard. It puts out the same 72 horsepower as the previous version, but it gets an extra 0.8 pound-feet of torque. I'm sure everybody is going to feel that when they tweak the throttle. Now, where you will feel a change is in the clutch, which now is said to be assisted, and it's also said as a result to be 20% lighter in operation. And it uses slipper technology too, which helps, of course, if you're a bit clumsy on the down changes. The bars, they're higher and wider. The front half of the two-part seat adjusts up and down 20 millimeters. The screen bracket has changed to reduced vibration, and the screen itself is apparently re-angled for improved airflow. For pillion riders, something that I always point out is ridiculous on a lot of bikes is the shortness of the seat. So this has been extended by 40 millimeters. And again, that may not sound a great deal, but it is, just under 2 inches, so fair distance. Redesigned grab handles for the passenger, another part of the bike which I often think is horribly designed. And you get updated foot pegs as well. Tanks up a whole litre from 17 to 18 litres, so you'll probably travel a few miles further on tankful too. The suspension gets a big change. You now get upside down forks. They've replaced the conventional units. They're rebound adjustable, which is always good news. The rear monoshock gets a remote preload adjuster on the GT, which is again very useful. Makes it much easier to adapt for a passenger. Let's hope the shock is actually reachable on the standard Tracer 7. It wasn't on the standard Tracer 9 I rode in New Zealand in 2019. It looked like the only way I could get to the adjuster ring was actually to take the rear wheel out. The frame's revised. It's said to have increased torsional, longitudinal and lateral rigidity, which always makes you wonder about the original frame, doesn't it? The swing arm also gains 40 millimeters. That again improves stability at speed and when cornering, and the brakes are uprated to radial calipers. Now, the electronics, they get major upgrades. Yamaha's chip-controlled throttle, YCC-T, in case you wanted the acronym, and Yamaha Ride Control. I think you can work that one out. It's possible to set the bike's throttle response and traction control via a custom mode, or you can simply plump for the factory and sport settings. As standard, the custom mode is a kind of main mode. Rather more useful, in my opinion, is the now standard cruise control. That comes in if you are in third gear and above, and if you're traveling at between or higher than 40 kilometers per hour, which is 25 miles per hour. And you can adjust it up and down in 1 or 10 kilometer per hour increments. I'm not quite sure how that would translate to miles per hour. And it turns itself off when you operate the cruise control switch, or the clutch, brakes, or roll off the throttle. There's a new TFT 5-inch color display, which delivers rider information. That pairs with the free Garmin Street Cross phone app, which provides turn-by-turn navigation. Although I will say the app won't run on my not very old Android phone. It doesn't even fire up. A USB-C socket, though, provides power. Yamaha also add self-cancelling indicators, another useful idea in my opinion. Only 35 years after I had them on my FZ750, I still miss them. And emergency stop signalling, which I believe flashes the hazards when you hit the brakes hard. Prices, they've gone up a bit. The Tracer 7 now is £8,805, and the GT starts at 10,104 in the showrooms in the UK. They should be turning up in around 6 weeks' time. The GT incidentally gets a slightly taller screen with a flip up on the end of it, added seat cushioning, pair of side cases as you'd expect, heated grips, and a center stand, which does make maintaining your chain rather more easy. Now, I notice there's no mention of any improved built-in security, and I honestly think that's something that's not acceptable in this day and age, that you can just plug in a defeat device and ride off on one of these things. So let's hope the changes don't make these bikes even more attractive to thieves. Right, okay, so it's over for the in-depth item. Now, last week, this time, my in-depth piece was about the MCIA's claim that the DFT should be updating the driving test here in the UK because they believe drivers need better hazard perception skills to keep riders safe. I was pointing out that there are two sides to every collision, and that I present this particular concept to bikers with the rather snappy catchphrase, "It takes two to tangle." And what I mean by that is, if the driver's error sets up the potential for a collision to happen, the crash will only complete itself if the rider fails to see it coming in time to take some avoidance or evasive action. I suggested that while helping drivers become more aware of bikes isn't a bad thing, we have to do something better about educating riders on how to stay out of collisions with cars. And what I'm saying is that we need to encourage riders to go from passive participant in these collisions to proactive avoider. Well, that was last Wednesday. Blow me down if 2 days later, on May the 9th, Steve Rose of Bennett's Bike Social shouldn't publish an article saying, "Motorcyclists, can we be heroes, not victims?" He says, "We can moan all we like about how car drivers should look for bikes, but 100 years of history suggests that's not going to happen. And the current generation of tin top occupants have more distractions than ever. As riders, we have to stop blaming others and fix this issue ourselves." Well, the fact that these collisions have been happening for 100 years is a comment I've made many, many, many times over the past 30 odd years. And whilst I dislike the sort of tin top kind of language, I always think sort of using derogatory language always doesn't help the interactions. But yeah, I agree. We have to stop blaming others and fix ourselves. He did use one line I particularly liked. He said, "Riding a bike in traffic is like entering a rocket in a balloon race. It comes with responsibilities to the rider because we're the ones who control the safety outcomes." And yeah, again, filtering, overtaking are two highly risky activities, whether or not we realize it. And he says it's us who should take responsibility for our own safety. Understanding that is motorcycling 101. Car drivers aren't the enemy. They aren't out to get us. They just want to be where they need to be. Cool, blimey, how many times have I said that? That drivers are just getting on with their own job, which is to get from where they were to where they need to be. Yeah, and again, he says at the end of the article, "My aim is not to interrupt their journey at all. If I make them swerve or slow down, then I've done something wrong." I've been saying this for years too. It's exactly what I've called the Highway Code's prime directive, which is not to make anyone else change speed or direction by our actions. And he says that he doesn't even want drivers to really notice me for more than a split second. "I don't need them to see me because I already saw them and acted accordingly." And this is what I've been calling stealth riding. When did I first cover this topic online? Well, it will be about 1994 when I was on CompuServe, and that was my dial-up access go-to. Now, okay. So again, how much of this draws on the survival skills approach to riding? I think it's a significant amount. Now, personally, I think it's long overdue that some of the mainstream bike riders actually start moving away from the idea that motorcyclists are victims of the system, and that bike collisions are always the driver's fault. And I do like the idea that we should start thinking ourselves as heroes for not getting caught out in somebody else's crash. Although there comes a risk from patting ourselves on the back a bit, and getting a bit overconfident at that. But frankly, if you're watching Elevenses, Steve, if you're reading what I have written, listening to my Spotify podcast, covering, so following my Facebook page, even my coffee page, I'd be more than happy to put heads together with you to thrash out some kind of biker code for the 21st century. Right, that is it today. Don't forget, if you do enjoy these shows, you can pop over to my coffee page, and if you become a supporter or a subscriber, it helps me enormously, and you get 1,000 better biking articles. Open up the archive, and you can do that by following the QR code here if you want to. That's the easy way to get to it. Otherwise, do a search for survival skills on coffee. Right, okay, that is it for today. It's been a bit of a quickie, but as I say, I've got to head off to the airport in just a few minutes. So thank you to everyone who has looked in early. And just one further comment, losing 8.2 kilograms equates to gaining approximately 2 horsepower. Well, yeah, it's a couple of big pies for you, isn't it, Terry? Right. Okay. Anyway, and Terry says he recalls lecturing his son about the necessity for not participating in other people's accidents. That was 25 years ago. He was 7. Yes. Excellent. That's probably when we should be learning these things. Right. Okay. Anyway, as I say, thank you all for looking in, whether you looked in early, live, or whether you're catching up with me late when you get back. And if you are out there enjoying the splendid spring weather here in the UK, do stay shiny side up, and then I'll see you for the next show, which will be on Sunday, and it will probably be a recorded show, but I'll confirm that later, nearer the date. Anyway, once again, thanks again for looking in, and we'll see you next time round.